So I'm watching Ben Doak, and I'm watching him very, very carefully because he's up against Guardiola. And Guardiola had his pants pulled down in Zagreb by that wee guy in the previous game a month earlier. And I thought, well, this will be really interesting. I want to see how he approaches this. And see, I watched the first 10, 15 minutes really closely, even when the ball wasn't anywhere near the pair of them. Guardiola was physically intimidating him. He was bullying him. He was all over. I mean, Ben Doak was up to his armpit when he was jumping at full height. So it looked to me like a mismatch. And it looked to me as if Guardiola was saying to himself, I'm not letting this boy do what he did to me. That's not going to happen again. And I feared for Ben Doak for 15 minutes. And then I think it was the 18th minute, he drops a shoulder, lets the ball through his legs, turns him, gets in behind him, and Guardiola was shaking like the proverbial dog, which is in desperate need of for the rest of the match. He had him on absolute toast from that minute on. So much so that by the end, in the last 10 or 20 minutes of the match,
Guardiola wasn't getting near him.
Well, Guardiola was there, and Ben Doak was saying to him, you know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. Try stop me. And he just dropped a shot and went and he's outside and he got past him 3 or 4 times to the byline. There was nothing Guardiola could do. This is an £80 million defender, by the way. Yeah. And he could not cope with him. He could not live with him. He was getting roasted, annihilated. And if that doesn't make people excited about the prospects of this Scotland side moving forward, I don't know what will. You couple that up with Billy Gilmore dominating the midfield when Luka Modric is in the opposition. These are 2 young boys that we're going to have, another more than 10 years?
Yeah.
These two.
Right.
Then you throw in Lewis Ferguson, then you throw in
Lennon
Miller,
Nathan Patterson, Hickey.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a feeling, do you know what, this has been a great run for Scotland. What happens when Andy Robertson and McGinn and these guys start to get the wrong side of 30 and it all catches up with them? Well, this is what happens. We pass over to this new generation. There is every reason to be so excited about this Scotland side. And I'm telling you now that in Doak and Gilmore, they're probably going to be the best of the lot. I genuinely have expectations that in 5 years' time, we're talking about them as world-class operators.
And that almost contradicts the kind of narrative at the moment.
They're doing we've not got any players.
They'll get any
They'll get loads of players.
But I suppose the way you look at it is if Steve Clarke genuinely believes that there's not enough young talent coming through. And listen, the stats and the facts and the figures are there. There aren't enough Scottish players playing in our top flight. But what that should tell you is, look at what we're producing. If things are that bad, and we're still producing a Gilmer and a Patterson and a Lennon.
I'll take another view of that, right? Yes, the stats do look bad. But you ask yourself, why? Why is it that we don't have Billy Gilmore playing in Scottish football? Why don't we get Ben Doak playing up here? Yeah. Why is Lewis Ferguson? And because other countries are now seeing they are producing players, and we're just going to come and take them. And there's nothing that we can do about that. But as long as we're still producing that level of player, and that they're attracting interest from some of the biggest leagues in the world, happy days. Happy days. This Scotland side, and I'm telling you, and I don't know if you really believed it, Daniel, but I was saying game after game in this section, we're improving. We don't look anything like the team that limped away from the Euros with its tail between its legs. We were just borderline embarrassing at that tournament because Steve Clarke was desperate to keep the handbrake on us. And this was a tournament, by the way, where other teams were being rewarded for being brave. We went the opposite way, and that's why there was such a frustration and probably a bit of anger about how that tournament worked out for us. Steve Clarke was angry. He didn't like being criticised. But I tell you what, he listened because this is a different Scotland.
Yeah,
when he's come back and he's almost reinvented this team. Okay, largely with the same faces. It's a different approach, a different mentality. We're a different Scotland. And I could feel that win was going to come for us.
And that's why if Steve Clarke ever had mojo, he's got it back. Because he knows he can see these players coming through. There was a lot of doom and gloom after the Euros, even for him. I mean, he disappeared for about 3 or 4 months. Do you know what I mean? Before MD got to speak to him again. But I think he's looked at the squad. He's looked at Doak in particular. What he can bring is in terms of something different. As you say, he didn't like the criticism, Steve Clarke, at the time, but he's went away and thought about it and changed the shape, changed a bit of the personnel. There's a bit of freshness,
it's the mental approach.
It's
the mental approach that he's changed. And I thought there was a real danger after the Euros that the players were getting fed up.
I was the same.
I thought the players were thinking, I'm not sure I want this. As much as they all enjoy being together, bottom line is, every time they go to a tournament, every time they have a bit of success, The handbrake's on them. They're not allowed to go out and perform. And Steve Clarke has had to have a leap of faith, I think, a little bit, in terms of just let them go and play a little bit. Yeah. Just let them go. Let them go and do what their instincts tell them to do. And you cannot find a better example of that than Ben Doak.
You see, the thing with Doak, right, you can't underestimate. See, as a player, and I mean even the top players like Andy Roberts and John McGinn, cannot underestimate how much a boost it will be for them, knowing we've got this kid in the team. If we get the bottom, something's going to happen.
Well,
we can get by a Gvardiol, we can get to the bye. Like, honestly, because Scotland, as much as we've been a really good team, like the great campaign we had to get to the Euros, it was a McTominay or a McGinn. You were relying on time and time again. No easy for central midfielders to go and get 5, 6, 7 goals in a campaign.
Yeah.
Honestly, these boys will be looking at Doak thinking, this is a